today. If you're an alum, stand up and be recognized. Let's go, don't be bashful. Thank you very much. We have heard from our elected officials, and I thank them for coming today. I would like to recognize the Senior Deputy Commissioner from the Department of Higher Education, representing that department and the Board of Higher Education, Dr. Clantha McCurdy. Clantha, would you stand and be recognized? I also would like to recognize the Board of Trustees. You've heard from our chair, Carol Vittorioso, Donald Irving, Michael Mahan, and Nathan Gregoire. I ask them to stand and be recognized. Seated in the front row and making the most noise this morning are my friends, the student government officers, and the senior class officers who led the professional today. As I read their name, would you please stand? You've already heard from Yashira Gonzalez, stand up, Carissa Facello, Evan Mendes, David Robinson, Anna Latino, Shanisa Sampson, Matthew Costello, Victoria with a Y, Pantano, Riley Sullivan, and John Wentworth. Stand up and be recognized. All right, sit down. You guys okay now or what? You've also seen, recognized the faculty and librarians. I'm very appreciative of that, and I love his final comment, Fitchburg State. But Fitchburg State and what you learned in your classrooms is really a tribute to the faculty and librarians on this campus. Once again, would you please applaud our faculty and librarians and have them stand. It is now my esteemed pleasure to introduce our commencement speaker, Michael Deitemeyer. Mr. Deitemeyer graduated from Fitchburg State University in 1986 with a degree in business. The skills he acquired at Fitchburg State complemented a tireless work ethic to bring Mr. Deitemeyer to the pinnacle of success in his industry. He has been president of Omni Hotels and Resorts since 2004, where he has established the company as a leading luxury hotel brand, best known for delivering superior quality and award-winning service. As Omni's president, Mr. Deitemeyer drives the corporate culture of a passionate group of associates dedicated to offering an unbridled experience for their customers. We are honored to have him back on our campus today to share his unique insights. Welcome to Fitchburg State, and we await your words of wisdom. Michael?
Good morning, class of 2013. You guys still awake? Yeah. All right. It's great to be back at Fitchburg State. I'm honored to be here with you on such an important day in your lives. Honestly, I don't recall who spoke at my commencement ceremony. What I do vividly remember, however, is what I felt. Extremely proud as a first person from my family to attend college, accomplished because I managed to graduate despite the exhaustion of studying and commuting and the discipline of balancing my course load with a full-time job all 4 years of college. And grateful to my mother, who is here with us today, who didn't give me an option, but told me I was going to college. At that point in my life, a drive to succeed was not my motivator. It was fear of failure. I had a job lined up, but I lived at home during school and was moving to North Carolina the following week. I didn't know a soul in the state. Although it is a little more common today for people to live at home after college, I didn't see that as an option. It was time to go, and I took the first option that was presented, despite the terrifying unknowns. If you will, let's think for a moment about the journey you begin the moment you walk across this stage. Let's frame this day forward in the context of building your own brand. Your brand literally being you, an individual, a professional, contributing to yourself, your family, and the global community. While it may not sound so glamorous in those terms, when it comes down to it, it's your challenge. The trick is to do all this while remaining true to yourself and find the balance that will ultimately define you. What's exciting, however, is that you are entering a world without boundaries. An added layer of globalization is literally at your fingertips. Technology provides all of you with a wealth of access and opportunity. Equipped with the right tools, a strong sense of self, and direction, you have the power to navigate your path and land in the destination of your choice. So where do you even begin? Well, today for all of you is a great start. Let's look back to the not-so-distant past, to your Fitchburg State application. When I applied to school in 1981, I didn't have to write an essay. It wasn't a requirement then. However, it wasn't long ago that all of you were asked by Fitchburg State to submit an application essay, a minimum of 300 words in which you might describe your career goals and how college would help you achieve them. Now, this is how many of you at that point knew what you wanted to do with your education. Great, wow. And how many of you had absolutely no clue? Yeah, I was in the no clue camp, 100%. This year, I had to help my daughters, Riley and Haley, write application essays for high school and college, respectively. While I worked with Haley on her college essay, I learned I was required to write a parent essay for Riley's high school application, and one that proved much more difficult than the college entrance application. The high school asked the extremely simple question, what is your vision for your daughter's education? In pondering my daughter's future, I naturally thought about where my own education had taken me, which then led me to think of all of you. Despite the obvious word count spread between that essay and this speech, I actually found a lot of similarities. It turns out that my vision for her and my hopes for you are quite parallel, to strike a successful balance that allows you to have the experiences and achieve the personal enrichment that maximize your individual potential. In simple terms, create a foundation for success that works for you and what you want to accomplish. I grew up just down the road in Lancaster. My parents were divorced, and I lived with my mother and tried to do my part while I lived at home. I went to college because I didn't know what else to do, and she made me. It was an expectation. Fitchburg State was a logical choice. Little did I know then how far along Fitchburg State would propel me towards building my own brand. Your early experiences have already started to shape your own brand attributes. As a kid, I mowed lawns. I started by surveying the entire yard to figure out how to attack the grass without retreading, to complete the task as quickly as possible. It wasn't about being productive. It was just about getting done to go do something else. My first real job at 16 was loading trailer trucks for a company called Zayres, which is similar to what Target is today. My 3 friends with whom I started all got fired, and I stayed on and diligently worked to the point I was rewarded with union membership. At 16, I thought it was pretty cool until they gave me my union card, and it was the Women's Garment Workers Union. Tackling the lawn had turned into loading a truck. I'd scoped the trailer as if the boxes of a puzzle that had to fit quickly into place. That full-time job I mentioned I held during most of my years at Fitchburg State. I worked at Lancaster Broom Factory. I got paid by the dozen, so I'd pop on my headphones, it was a Walkman back then, and listen to the music of the Talking Heads, AC/DC, Van Halen, and been thinking, how do I do this better and faster? It's amazing these guys are still singing, some of them, right? I had the highest production in my division, and looking back, I didn't realize I was building a brand to be efficient. It was clearly about production. I made more than anybody else in that environment, and I was being rewarded for it. A quick apology to any of the parents here that brought a broom over that time. I did not yet have a passion for quality. I just made as many as I possibly could. Lots of unhappy customers. My exposure at that point in my life, given my family and my group of mentors, was mostly labor-intensive construction jobs. Once at college, I was good with numbers, so I chose to study business with a concentration in accounting, primarily because I couldn't comprehend what a marketing degree or a management degree meant. When I started down that road, it wasn't necessarily appealing. It was just something I understood. In fact, you should know that it's a perfectly acceptable way to approach work. Sometimes you start with what you know versus what you like. but how you manage and react to the less appealing aspects of your job is one of the early building blocks in defining your brand. Despite my knack for numbers, I still didn't really know what I wanted to do. By my junior year, I still had no idea, so I thought perhaps an internship might open a door for me. My understanding is most of you have gone through this process as well. If you haven't, go find relevant experience and don't worry about compensation beyond what you absolutely need. At that time, I had 3 internship options: an accounting job in a grocery store, spending the day in a room that smelled of produce and the meat counter, or a bank basement where I could work with a manager to rewrite corporate procedures, or the third and most attractive choice presented, working in accounting at the Marriott Hotel in Worcester. Having rarely ventured outside of New England, the grand appeal of this hotel, new at the time, was really what opened me to a whole new world. Now, you have to understand that typically my family camped. The hotel was a far cry from the campgrounds, tents, and sleeping bags. It had a restaurant and a high-end nightclub, and it was popular back then. It was the nicest hotel I'd ever seen at that stage of my life. My boss, a fairly young guy, and appeared to be very successful. So I accepted that job and was all the way on my way. Although always working in a room one step above a bank basement, I found it pretty comfortable managing inventory and number crunching. It was an upgrade from working in a factory making straw brooms with no air conditioning. My internship eventually turned into a salary position, and as I juggled this job with my senior workload, I quickly realized that being part of this large organization provided me an opportunity to discover where I could learn what I was passionate about. Sometimes you just fall into it. Back to the fear I mentioned at the beginning. The first year on my job, I just didn't want to fail. During that first year with Marriott, I watched and I listened. I worked late nights, weekends, and holidays, which you can expect to do a lot of should you decide to work in hospitality. My girlfriend at the time, Sherry, now my wife, listened to me second-guess my career choice many times. Ultimately, I made a decision to try to master certain things at work, even if I hated them. If you learn this early, these experiences will help you become a stronger, more compassionate manager later. Today, some of you have jobs or internships in hand, and some of you will take time off before you begin the process. The truth is, very few of you will go into your first job making what you think you deserve, work the hours you choose, or do the types of things you've dreamed your education would allow. The reality is, you're just a paid student at the beginning. You start at what may feel like the bottom as entry-level employee, despite the industry, autonomy, or salary level. You must put in your time, tolerate the grunt work, and earn the respect and trust of those around you. Every brand has stumbling blocks. This will be part of your growth. Your life isn't going to be what you expect. I grew up wanting to spend my life in central Massachusetts. Then 2 weeks after I graduated, I found myself stuck in my first assignment in Charlotte, North Carolina. Thinking I could stay there for a while, they then moved me to Memphis, Tennessee, Minneapolis, Memphis again, and finally to Corpus Christi, Texas. The multiple moves provided incredible experiences and cultivated a sense of exploration. I decided the life I craved growing up wasn't necessarily what I wanted anymore. I slowly started to become someone who always searched out new opportunities and experiences. My brand evolved. It was when we landed in Corpus Christi, as the dust was settling from my 5 moves, that things started to change. There I met the owner of a hotel group comprised of just 3 hotels, which eventually evolved into what Omni Hotels brand is today. Well, physical mobility does not apply to all of you. Your mental mobility does. In navigating your path, accepting and moving with and not change is paramount to success, both personally and professionally. It's easy to be recognized if you excel at what you do, so build your brand. Understand what makes you unique. There are nearly 1.8 million other individuals that will graduate as the class of 2013, each trying to build their own brands just like you. So if you know your strengths, quickly grasp onto them and work with what you've got. Understand that you're going to have great managers and bad managers. People are successful because of certain skills, and they have, and your job is to take the best and learn from it. There is much value and opportunity in working for a bad manager as there is a good one. Embrace both. Some of you are more artistic and passionate. Some of you are more business-minded. Don't be afraid of hard work. Don't be afraid of long hours, but also be cognizant so you may achieve a balanced life. Personal enrichment and happiness that will drive your your personal success. Don't run from your mistakes. Lean into them. Own them. This simple but very hard act is a sign of a good leader, and you will be recognized for taking that risk. Be courageous and ask for what you want. If the answer is no, and will be more often than not, then figure out how to go make it happen for yourself. Tackle problems head on. I've had several friends who left their chosen career within 12 to 24 months after college being disillusioned. I started my career in a business that runs 365 days a year, 24 hours a day, with lousy hours and little pay in the beginning. But failure wasn't an option, so I sucked it up and did what I had to do. Now, as president of a national luxury hotel brand, I, like most employers, look for a few things when we recruit college graduates: attitude, presentation, relevant work experience. But what I really tell my team is to look beyond the person with the highest GPA and rather to the person who overcame obstacles to achieve an education. With drive comes great rewards. Based on my own experience, dedication and commitment leads to greater things, and I now ensure that we recognize others for it. At Omni, we have a Leaders in Development program, the roots of which I created more than 20 years ago after seeing great potential and a handful of dedicated interns and entry-level employees. It is in part a way to honor and emulate what I gained from my internship at Fitchburg State. It all led me to the leadership position I hold today. Lastly, living with passion is important. I've put some miles both in life and travel since my days at Fitchburg State when I thought of the world as Central Mass. Today, in addition to my role, he caught it. That was great. Today, in addition to my role with Omni, I'm chairman of a global hotel company, and I travel around the world. Ensuring while on these trips, I do everything I can to soak up the experience. Play as hard as you work, push boundaries, and explore new territory. And now I find myself here before you at Fitchburg State in the place where my path and my brand began. You have an excellent education. You create, evolve, and reinforce your brand every day on both a personal and professional level. Be cognizant in understanding how your identity, attitude, and approach affect the opportunities available to you. I still have a lot of hard work ahead of me, as do all of you. Just as I envisioned in my parent essay, and as my daughters map their paths, and standing here before you today, as you begin to navigate yours, remember one thing: you always have the ability to do more, reach for more, and you will be rewarded for it. With that, you can achieve almost anything. Congratulations, class of 2013.
Okay, can we stop the beach balls, please? There is a security issue. We've asked you not to bring those. It's disrespectful to the speakers to use the beach balls. Please end it. This is not a beach party. You can do that at 1 o'clock, and I will come with you. All right, guys, come on, knock it off. Let's go. Let's just get rid of the beach balls. You're being rude to your parents. You're being rude to the university. We now recognize students from the Fitchburg State University's Honors Program, which provides talented and highly qualified students with rewarding and innovative courses of study. The Honors Program concludes with a 2-semester-hour thesis. This year, we have 13 students who have completed this program. So as I read your name, will you please stand, and would you hold your applause to the end? This is a remarkable achievement. Sarah Baker, Matthew Clare, Ashley DeFlemick, Emily Dusnap, Bradley Dunstan, Nicholas Gulbranson, Louis Howe, Shadiel Lalu, Mark Lodgy, William Larry, Stephanie McCluskey, Caitlin McLaughlin, and Alexander Mundig. These students have earned the distinction of Commonwealth Scholars. Let's give them a round of applause. We now come to the section of the program where we'll be making some awards in recognition of the achievements that people have made. I would now ask my wife, Jean, to please join me at the podium. Let's hear it. I would all now ask Matthew Costello to join me at the podium. The Robert V. and Jean Antonucci Leadership Award is presented to an outstanding graduating senior based on extensive involvement in both campus activities and community service, demonstrated leadership in student organizations, and evidence of a positive impact on Fitchburg State University students. The award has an individual scholarship of $1,500. The class of 2013 has no shortage of outstanding leaders, and I am very pleased to announce that Matthew Costello has been selected as this year's recipient. Congratulations, Matt, on a great honor. Matt, I shortchanged you $1,500. It is a $3,000 award. Where are we going for?